Tell me if this sounds familiar. You get really sore during and after the gym, so the preceding sessions you can no way near train as hard as you wish you could because you're so sore and you've not even recovered yet. And this is probably because your volume is all over the place, with the most common issue being people using too much volume throughout the week for specific muscles. If we've not met before, what's up? I'm Lockie, a final year student at Oxford Brookes University studying sport and exercise science. With years of experience in the fitness space, I'm here to separate facts from bro science and use that science to put into actionable training strategies. So if you haven't figured it out by now, we're going to be discussing training volume. We're going to speak about what it is, why it matters, and how to find the sweet spot for maximising muscle growth and strength gains. And stick around to the end for some extra tips on how to incorporate volume effectively into your training program. So let's cover the bases. What is training volume? Volume, simply put, is the amount of work you do in your workouts. And we measure volume by reps and sets, and it's a key factor in making progress. For example, if you do 3 sets of 10 reps on a barbell bench press, that's a total of 30 reps, so that is your volume for that exercise. And then obviously you can go further into it and work out your weekly volume for certain muscle groups, or just your per session volume for certain muscle groups too. So let's speak about volume and hypertrophy, because research has shown a significant correlation between an increase in volume and an increase in hypertrophic gain. So the more sets you do for a muscle group, the more hypertrophy you can stimulate. This graph shows how muscle growth increases with volume, but at a decreasing rate. This concept is called diminishing returns. And for muscle hypertrophy, there are several factors to consider when thinking about volume. So how do you find your optimal volume for hypertrophy? So first, it's important to distinguish between direct and indirect volume. I've briefly covered this topic before, but let's go into some more depth. So direct volume is where the muscle you're targeting is the prime mover of the exercise. So think bicep curls for biceps, or think squats for quads. An indirect volume is where the muscle is a synergist for the movement, helping the prime mover. So think about triceps for a barbell bench press. For optimal hypertrophy, research suggests counting indirect volume as half a set. We call this the fractional volume method. Start with a moderate fractional volume of 10 sets per muscle group per week, and then gradually increase it from there. And pay attention to how your body responds. If you're feeling good and you still think you can progress more, then by all means increase the volume. But if you're constantly sore, fatigued, or your performance is declining, it's probably time to either A, focus on your recovery, or B, decrease the volume itself. So now that we've looked at volume for hypertrophy, what about strength? How much volume do we actually need to get consistently stronger? Let's take a look. Like hypertrophy, volume and determining the right amount of volume is crucial for building strength. But research shows that the strength dose response to volume plateaus a lot faster than it does for hypertrophy. And what this means is there's a much sooner point where doing any more volume than that will not increase strength gains. So for example, if the point of diminishing return for hypertrophy is 20 sets per muscle group per week, for strength it may be 10. Those obviously aren't the exact figures, but that's just an example so you can understand what I'm talking about. So like we did for hypertrophy, let's find out the optimal volume for strength, and again we're going to be using the fractional volume method. Consider exercises that directly work the muscles in the strength assessment you're targeting. For example, if you're aiming to increase your 1 rep max on a barbell squat, use a barbell squat as direct volume, but then consider using exercises like a lunge or a leg press as indirect volume. Because although you may be targeting the same muscle used as the prime mover in a squat, it's not replicating the same movement, so it's very different in strength than it is hypertrophy. But studies show that as little as 1 fractional set per week can be enough to see improvements. This is considered the minimum effective dose. For continued strength gains, aim for a fractional volume of 4 to 5 sets per week, because going any further than this won't necessarily translate to bigger gains. But remember, the key to effective training is finding out what works best for you. Although science is there with definitive facts, it may not be applicable to everyone. So start with moderate volume, use the fractional volume method to count for direct and indirect work, and listen to your body. If you're recovering well, by all means increase the volume, but if not, prioritize your recovery or even decrease the volume you're doing. Because actually training smart is about knowing when to pull things back and knowing when you can push forward. So in this video, we learn what resistance training volume is and why it's so important for hypertrophy as well as strength. We looked at the concepts of diminishing returns and the plateau effect, and we explored how to find your optimal weekly volume using the fractional volume method. Remember, consistent effort and progressive overload are essential for making consistent progress. So make sure you keep training smart, not just hard, and you'll continue to see those results. Now I want to hear from you. How much volume are you using per week, and what are your goals? Are they for hypertrophy? Are they for strength? And if you have any further questions on volume, be sure to leave them in the comments. Also, have you experimented with different amounts of volume or different volume counting methods other than the fractional method? And how did it affect your results? Let me know. Share your experiences and questions in the comments, and make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell icon so you get notified every time I post. Smash the thumbs up if you like this video in particular, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.